used to think people were so dumb. Before my mission, I had very little exposure to other people's beliefs, their explanations. I'd go to the library and I'd read books, and I had friends, and I'd talk to them once in a while. Mostly what I heard there was kind of hearsay from other people that believed the way that I did. And I just thought people were kind of stupid. Like, how could they not figure this out? It's so obvious what the truth is. I was suffering from something called the Dunning-Kruger effect. You can look it up. It's when you know very little about something. This is associated with a very high level of confidence. And as you learn more, your confidence on the subject actually goes down because you realize you don't actually know as much as you thought that you did. And then once you're an expert, you're actually less confident than you were when you were an ignoramus. Here's an image that illustrates the point. So you know nothing, you know a tiny bit, and you think you know everything. And then as you start to learn more, you realize, wow, there's a lot more here that I could learn. And then even once you're a very, very high expert, you're still not as arrogant as you were when you knew practically nothing but thought that you knew everything. This was me at one point in my life in regards to other people's beliefs. Then I went on a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I talked to literally thousands of people. I kept track of it. It was over 8,000 by the time I ended my mission. And as I talked to people, I started to get a curiosity. I wanted to understand where they were coming from. So I started to go to churches, not just asking the lay members, but the leaders in the churches what it was they believed and why. I prepared some of my very hardest questions, things that I thought were just stupid. Like, how could anybody have a different view from this? And when I asked the leaders in these other churches, they came up with very intelligent and reasonable answers. Now, I did not acknowledge these answers in the sense that I didn't accept them, but I was able to acknowledge them in the sense that I could see that they were both reasonable and intelligent. So, in between the mocking laughter and the insults, there is a comment made here that I think is worth addressing. People are of the faith of where they were randomly born. Statistically, this holds out as generally true, based on personal experiences that I've had that are of a very sacred nature. It is my personal belief that Jesus Christ is perfectly merciful and just. I do believe that God does interact with people on the earth to provide help, supportive environments, and even a church that is here to assist and prepare the world for the second coming of Jesus Christ and to fulfill prophecy. People being a part of this church has very much to do with where they were born, who their parents were. At least now. Initially, that wasn't the case a couple hundred years ago because the church is fairly new. Many people raised in different parts of the world don't have adequate exposure to the church to even be able to make a decision about joining it. Or the information that they have about the church is from unreliable sources, giving them so much misinformation that they're much like I was before I went on my mission. I think the people that belong to the church must all be ignorant idiots, believing some religion that is so obviously contradictory to any sort of evidence or logic or reason. The only reason that anybody could belong to an organization like this is if they were brainwashed, or they were just really stupid, or maybe evil. Whatever hell awaits them is well deserved for their stupidity and ignorance. The best thing that I can do is notify them and tell them that they're going to go to hell and that they belong to a satanic cult. So if I ever see any sort of person online making any sort of video content that belongs to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I'll just leave a little note here that says, you belong to a satanic cult and you're brainwashed. That way I'm doing my good deed for the day and notifying them of reality. Maybe I can even spare them from burning in hell for eternity because of their stupidity and belonging to a satanic cult that teaches them horrible lies. Or, if I'm an atheist, I might think perhaps I'll spare them from this horrific cult life, where every aspect of their life is controlled and dominated and horribly influenced by their membership in this stupid cult that leaves them brainwashed and stupid and idiotic. Then they can get out to experiencing real life. Maybe I can even say something shocking enough like, stop being a fool and grow up, you ignorant idiot. And they'll kind of get shocked out of their stuporous days of being brainwashed and be awakened to the realization of their circumstances. It might be interesting to note that maybe I wasn't quite so brash when I was younger as to say things like this, but some of this thought process, some of this way of thinking was had by me as well before I went on my mission and talked to thousands and thousands of people, truly seeking and wanting to understand what they believed and why. Back when I was somewhere up here on the Dunning-Kruger effect. In response to the part of your comment that was not an insult, I don't believe that Jesus Christ is going to save someone or damn someone in hell based on what religion they belong to. Why? Because that would be purely unmerciful and unjust. And I feel that I know from personal experience that Jesus Christ is perfectly merciful and perfectly just. And his love is more than anything that I could possibly convey in words. And such a loving, merciful, and just being would not treat anyone in this way, much less his children. Each individual will be judged perfectly, likely based off of their own personal capacity, their own exposures, their own environment, and the dictates of their conscience and what they're able to believe. The atonement of Jesus Christ will make up any differences and any problems with any of this. I'm less concerned about what religion someone belongs to, where they sit down on Sunday or Saturday or any other day of the week. What I'm more concerned about, and what I believe that Jesus Christ is more concerned about, is that they're acting in accordance with the dictates of their conscience. They're striving to be a good person, to do what is right. Granted that everybody will be judged differently because we're all different. To me, verbally accepting Jesus Christ, that's great. But it's hypocrisy if a person's actions do not follow their verbal confession. To say that you're a disciple or follower or believer of Jesus Christ and then to not bring forth works or actions that manifest your belief is to say one thing and to do another, which is hypocrisy. It's my belief that Satan is the father of hypocrisy. All of us are exposed to stories from the time that we're little children. Maybe your stories are atheist stories, or maybe they're stories from the Bhagavad Gita in Hinduism. Maybe they're stories from the Dhammapada in Buddhism, or the Sri Guru Granth Sahib in Sikhism, or the Bible in Christianity, the Quran in Islam. And I've read all of these books, some of them many times. Whether or not you believe these stories that you're told perhaps has more to do with how gullible you are or how skeptical you are, how trustworthy your parents or the leaders who shared these stories with you were. And so to me, believing a story is less important than following God, accepting God, having faith in God. Yes, we all have stories, but I believe that God manifests himself personally to each individual through their conscience. I call it the light of Christ. We have a sense of right and wrong. And I believe this comes from God. Sure, it can be influenced by our culture and our society, but it seems to be present in nearly all cultures and all societies and all people. And you can exercise trust or faith in God directly, regardless of whether or not you believe the stories that were taught to you as a child. And exercising faith in God directly looks very much like following your conscience, to do what you know is right and good. If someone says that they believe in God, that they have faith in God, but they don't keep the commandments of God or follow the light of Christ, God's direct guidance to their souls, that person is a hypocrite. And I don't care what religion they belong to. I am a fool, and I do have much more to learn, which makes me ignorant. And I am an idiot, but I am striving to be better. I'm striving to do what is right, to do what is good and kind. And I encourage you and anyone else watching this video to try to do the same. And every man and woman shall be rewarded according to his works, whether they be good or whether they be evil. And that is quoting my master, my Lord and my God, who is Jesus Christ.